Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop, children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down.
Welcome back, everyone, to POWMI Radio. I'm your host, Rod Utek, continuing along with hour number 2 here today. And today, of course, is August 17th, 2008. And we're coming to you from the beautiful studios here at KHNC AM Radio, 1360 on your AM dial in Johnstown, Colorado. Or you're listening to us on the internet at the American Freedom Network, www.americannewsnet.com. Thank you very much for joining us. Got an interesting show for you this hour, and as I mentioned, we're going to continue in our little series, mini-series, so to speak, of Korean War ex-POWs, and I'm honored to have with us another gentleman who was a former prisoner of war there in North Korea. And interesting because I met a lot of beautiful people there at the Korean War ex-POW Association here last month, and heard a lot of interesting stories. And I wanted to do a series. I was so impressed with the people over there. And, you know, we had a little cold spell here in Colorado. A lot of people are complaining about the cold. But I'll tell you what, after talking with these guys and the time they spent in North Korea, this is a run in the sun compared to what they went through in Korea. You know, we're talking 40 below as a prisoner of war. So anyhow, going to hear more about that here from our very special guest. So it's an honor to have with us this afternoon for this hour, Mr. Don Denny. Don, thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, thank you very much for having me.
Boy, glad to have you on board here today. And I don't know how it's been down there where you're at, but a little cool up here in Colorado.
Well, I tell you, it's about 90 degrees and we got a storm coming in.
Oh, like a hurricane type?
Yeah. Right.
Oh, no. How far away is that from you?
Well, it's covering right over Cuba right now.
Okay.
And it's coming up into the Gulf of Mexico, which I live on the Gulf of Mexico.
Okay.
Right across from Tampa and Clearwater Beach area.
Oh, okay.
And so the storm's coming up. It's coming across Cuba right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we just got to wait and see where it goes. Where it comes up the middle, goes back to Texas, or where it goes.
Have you ever had to evacuate before?
Some of the areas have. I live about 3.5 miles from the beach.
Oh, okay.
And that's inland, and about 4 miles from Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm right in between two bodies of water.
Oh.
But I've been in this house 34 years, and I've never had a bit of damage to it.
Well, boy, that's got to say something.
Yeah, with all the storms we've had in the last few years, we've been very lucky.
Yeah, knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I hope everything works out well for you with this storm.
We'll see what happens, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of life, you know.
Yeah, it's part of life, but you're living in a beautiful part of the country, too.
Oh, yeah,
it's
yeah.
nice down there.
Well, we were in Colorado, and it was, 104 when we were there, 100?
I believe so, yeah, it was hot that week.
You know, we came home, and it was 94, 93, and it was so hot here you couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
Your air is so much different there than what it is here.
The humidity is lower.
The humidity, right.
Yeah.
Our humidity is like 90%, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite warm, you know.
Oh, I remember vacationing down there in Florida. We're from Chicago originally, and I remember vacationing down there a couple of times. And it was always a refreshing change for us.
Well, I lived in Chicago for 20-some years after I got out of the service.
Oh, that's right.
And I worked for an oil company at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked outside, and it would be like 12, 14 below zero in the winter, you know. And I decided one morning day I got cold, and I said, well, as soon as my son graduates from high school, I'm getting out of here.
Mm-hmm. You had enough of the cold.
After freezing in Korea, I said, why am I doing this?
That's right.
You know, I said, why in the world am I putting myself through this kind of torture, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I said, I'm just going to get out of here. Well, without a job or anything, I just up and moved.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that took a little bit of guts.
Well, yeah, it did.
But maybe confidence in your own abilities, huh? You're going to find something.
Well, I don't have a education, you know, as far as school. And now I have a high school. I got my high school diploma when I was 71 years old.
Oh, my goodness.
So just think about that.
Yeah, boy, you sound a lot like Bill Norton last week. He just got his high school diploma this year.
Yeah, right. He just got his this year, right.
Well,
right.
my hat is off to you for going back and getting that.
Yeah, well, I always have what you call, I always tell people, I don't have an education, but I have street smarts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to go out and make a living. I learned that in the service,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to take care of yourself.
Sure.
I've always been able to do that without harming anybody or doing any harm to anybody else, you know.
Well, you know what? As long as you're not one of those people that I refer to as a head-nodding ladder climber, you know, you really don't need that education as long as you have, as you consider it, street smarts and know how to, you know, make do for yourself and,
Right,
and
right.
your family.
Right,
Sure.
right.
Because all that other stuff that's that sheepskin, you know, that gives you that pseudo knowledge, as I call it. And
Yeah.
that, unfortunately, too many people recognize that as a badge of achievement. When,
yeah, right.
Gee whiz! I mean, you went through the school of hard knocks. There you go.
Yeah, right.
So you ought to be qualified for that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I lived in, if you want to know a little about me, I'll tell you a little bit about me, and you have a general idea
Sure.
of what I am and who I am.
Okay.
Okay? I lived in southern Illinois in a coal mine town. That's where I was born.
Uh-huh.
And I lived in what you call a company house.
So they provided you that?
Where the coal mine owned the house.
But they took your rent out of your paycheck, I'll bet.
I think they were paid with tokens. We got everything from the company store.
Okay.
So when I was 15, I was, you know, I ate good, but that's about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We had plenty of beans and potatoes and, you know, like country people live, you know.
Sure.
So I said, well, and I had friends that had went into the service, and I said, I think I'll just go in the service.
Mm-hmm.
And I was 15 years old.
15 years old. How'd they get you in?
Well, I got a birth certificate from, my birth wasn't on record. And I got a birth certificate from the county showing I was born in 1930.
Okay.
And I was born in 1932.
Oh, okay. So you fudged it a little bit with,
Yeah,
with
and
the
you
Army.
know, I've told the Army 1,000 times about that, and they will, to this date, they won't change my record.
Oh, my goodness.
So my record's still showing I'm 2 years older than what I am.
Don, hold on. We got to take a short break.
Okay.
Coming up here, we'll be right back after this. Our special guest is Mr. Don Denny, Korean War veteran and former prisoner of war. We'll be right back after this.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to.
Welcome back, everyone, to POWMI Radio. We'll be right back to our guest, Mr. Don Denny. But first of all, I want to mention our sponsor for this hour is the Korean War ex-POW Association. And it was formed in 1976 as a nonprofit organization, the only association dedicated to representing all Korean War ex-POWs from the United Nations who joined in the war. I want to thank the Korean War ex-POW Association and Mr. Lloyd Pate for making a generous donation to the studio here in honor of POWMI Radio. So thank you very much to the Korean War ex-POW Association. Now I want to get back to our guest. Now when we left, we were talking about you joining the Army at the ripe old age of, what, 15?
15. Right.
Yeah, and the reason was to become a millionaire, right?
Yeah. I got $75. Well, by telling you this, it'll help you understand how I survived through the prison camp.
Sure.
Okay, I lived in strictly poverty.
Mm-hmm.
We had food to eat. We had beans and potatoes and things like that.
Right, the basics.
But we didn't have material things like shoes. You know, I had cardboard in my shoes. I had holes in them.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of thing, you know. And we didn't have outside bathrooms or no showers or anything like that. You go down to the coal mines, and they had a pond there, and you run the animals out and get in and take a bath
Oh, no.
during the summer, you know.